Hello and welcome to another episode with me, Andy, coming to you from the United Kingdom.
Hey, Andy, do you mind if I join you?
Oh, it would be a pleasure. And who are you?
Well, it's me, Scott, coming to you from the West Toronto studio again today.
Fantastic. And it's a pleasure to have you back here on the Tea and Timbits podcast, which is all about global perspectives on business development to help you prosper. And we are in August, and that means we're continuing with our onboarding and recruitment. This week we are talking about I wrote this down earlier. The collaboration, the importance of collaboration between the different functions in an organization, such as sales, marketing, and finance. But before we do that, and I figure out what I'm going to talk about, I'd like a story from you, please, Scott.
Thank you. I'm going to give a little update on a story that I originally added in, I think back to the end of June, so maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago. You might recall I was talking about engaging in the sort of contract and the legal review process back then, and there was a couple of different prospects that had gotten to that point where we're into the fine tuning of the language in the agreement. I talked about establishing context for why you're even doing that in that last story. I have continued both of those conversations. They're dragging through the thickest mud there is on the planet. It's legal mud. It's no thicker or thinner in any legal department that I've experienced. But I was on the last call in this particular case, and really this is just an excuse for me to rant because I can't do it in front of the client.
No, of course.
Um, but it was me on this side, and it was 4 lawyers on the other side to go through because they each have a different specialty and expertise in a particular kind of, one was cyber, one was, general, and one was something and something else. I don't even remember. And I was like, really? Really? It takes 4 of you to have this conversation? There's one of me over here. I'm not even a lawyer. Let's get going, guys, because I've got ChatGPT with me and I got all I need. So we get through this conversation and we gain alignment. We get clarity. Okay, yeah, I see your perspective. Okay, I see your perspective. Okay, I'll make this change. Okay, I'll work on that change. And I felt good. I came out of it and expecting a follow-up within days. Of course. Forgot how thick the mud is. Weeks later, I get the follow-up, the edited version, marked up, and I'm going, oh my God. They changed their mind. They backed off on what we agreed to on the call, and they've edited this and marked it up to be closer in line with what they were asking for to begin with before we had that alignment call. So my blood's boiling, and I'm now falling down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out, fine, do I decide to move forward? Do I abandon this deal? If I compromise in their way, what am I going to have to change and, to minimize risk if this is the posture we take? And so I phone my client, like the business leader counterpart, right? So legal's never the client. It's always, the business unit, but then legal gets involved. And I was like, I got to tell you, we're going to have to change the SOW if this is what your legal department's going to insist on. And they got all worried and confused. And I was like, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, because they were equally frustrated that I was articulating that the legal department had not accepted the amendments that we had agreed to verbally. And I shared my screen, I brought it up, and they were beside themselves. They're like, yeah, you're right. Like, my legal department did not change this the way we had verbally agreed. And they're like, you know what? I bet they forgot. I bet they didn't make a note. I bet when they finally came back around to this, and they're like, nope, let's just assume that they didn't do what they agreed to, but they still will. And let's go back to them and just say, sorry, this isn't what we agreed to. So we're going to stick with what the agreement was, and I'm changing your language back to that. And I went, that's a really good perspective. Like I wasted like 2 hours, like further research, further thought, further defense of the situation. And it was probably, and the phrase is, never attribute to malice what you can just as easily attribute to stupidity. They probably just forgot. So maybe there'll be another update to the story. But the point of sharing this was, and this will lead into our conversation, it is such a delicate effort to gain this kind of alignment in the sales process, and collaborate effectively, and to maybe queue up where we're going. I think that as the business development person working on this, and you have the leadership role, and even if it's a lawyer who's supposed to be all over this and smart and technically savvy, give them their to-do list. Accountable, set the follow-up for the next legal meeting, and show that that's just as much about how we work as anything else. So here's my update. We'll see where the story goes from here.
A quick question for you, and thank you for sharing that. When the meeting concluded, was there a minutes of meeting that was circulated with the agreed changes and stuff to both parties?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, then there's no excuses there.
Right. Well, I assumed, since it was all clear and we had a really good call, that they must have changed their mind. And after the call, they had gone back on their decision. And so now here I was stuck with a marked up contract that I needed to instead of thinking, oh, they didn't do what they said, I shouldn't invest this, I should go back to them and be like, guys, is this actually what you want me to consider, or did you forget what we agreed to? So I jumped to the worst case scenario, which was bad on my part, but what I thought I had to do.
Yeah, but I think based on what you've shared there, it's a fair assumption that that could have happened, given the amount of time that passed between the meeting and you receiving the unamended contract. Yeah.
Well, it was amended, but just not in any
just
way.
Not as agreed. Yeah. Oh dear. Well, I look forward to hearing how that one pans out
in 2028.
But today's topic, let's get into that. We are today discussing alignments between departments as in the context of onboarding and recruiting, and so that's an important differentiator between this discussion if we were talking about it in general.
Right.
So the topic we have gone for is fostering collaboration and aligning sales, marketing, and finance. So would you like me to start, or would you like to start, Scott?
Well, I mean, again, you already reiterated, but it keeps getting even muddled up in my own mind. We're talking about the alignment between these departments when you're recruiting and onboarding new salespeople. So in that context, we're not talking about the context of my story where you're trying to gain alignment between all those departments on your clients, side and a new business opportunity recruiting. So Andy, why, if I'm hiring a new business development person, do I need to gain alignment between anybody other than the sales department?
Well, obviously, you're going to end up with a dysfunction in that onboarding process, and you're going to end up with a lot of confusion because, of course, you will get the perspective from sales saying the leads that we get from marketing are weak, and you'll get marketing saying that sales don't follow up, and you'll get finance saying that everything's costing far too much money and we're not making enough profit on everything that we're doing. So that will obviously then lead to inconsistent onboarding. That will lead to new hires feeling that they're a bit drowned in noise and misdirection and being drawn into these internal conflicts and things like that. And it's just unnecessary and not a very good platform for building and creating a successful onboarding process, or giving the tools and effective platform for new hires to be successful. So I would suggest that that when you do have your onboarding process, that you make sure that marketing are clear on what their role is in onboarding new salespeople. And part of that will be, of course, explaining and educating the new hires on the areas that they feel the sales department are potentially weak. So understanding campaigns, understanding content strategy, understanding what their role is and where they hand over and what the expectation is from the sales department. That finance explains things like margins and helps the salesperson understand how that worked in the organization, how the cost structures are, what the pricing flexibility is, but also that the sales department walks through the buyer journey and the sales process and the deal velocity, and that there's one aligned narrative across all of those departments, and it comes across as one team and one organization with one clear goal.
So I'm going to summarize now, just so that
that was a short episode.
I get this clear, right? So the responsibility for this kind of collaboration in the sales department is focused more on pipeline, sales process, deal velocity, and that's a fancy way of saying, like, what's your nurturing process and follow up, and how do you keep momentum in the pipeline. And it's sales responsibility to take accountability for the collaboration. Everybody's a mutual owner in that, but the person who needs to be ultimately accountable for that is sales. This is a sales hire and an onboarding process. Then marketing is there to articulate the way that they are supporting the sales department. What kind of campaigns are happening? What can you expect us to produce for you from a marketing qualified lead perspective? So, or a nurturing resource. Not all marketing departments produce MQLs. Sometimes it's the sales department's responsibility to find those leads, but it's marketing's responsibility to support nurturing the opportunity when somebody's in the pipeline. So what is that split of responsibility and ownership, and then it's finance's responsibility, or it's finance has a role in reporting, measuring and reporting on success. And there's an upfront alignment there on how are we going to measure success? What are the metrics? What are the numbers? And how do we keep focus on that and make sure that we're agreed on that at the beginning, so we're not inventing metrics, building a narrative that's positive or negative after the fact to retroactively justify, how to move forward.
Pretty much. I think yes, and I think there's elements in there which come in throughout at different stages throughout the onboarding process, and this is the important thing, that the onboarding process for a new sales hire should be the same as the onboarding process for the new marketing hire, the new finance hire, the new operations hire, because at that very basic level, when you're learning about the company and the processes and everything, you have to have that clear understanding of how all of the departments work and their expectations of one another. Because by doing that, then ultimately everyone in the organization will be clear, and it will be one team and one standard across departments, and everyone will understand who does what and what those responsibilities are and what those expectations are. And then I think, as you correctly pointed out, as you move further down that process and you start going into the specifics, then it's very important that you revisit those departments and drill down into how those departments specifically affect your role and your responsibilities.
So I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there. So you said that the onboarding process for the salesperson should be the same as it is for an onboarding process for somebody in marketing or finance and whatnot. I think your point is, like, you want everybody, regardless of role and responsibility within the company, to have the same understanding of all of our business processes and all of our procedures and our entire culture, and to be equally as well brought up to date on different areas of responsibility.
Mhm.
I
That's
think
correct. Yeah.
I think though that part I'm in agreement with you on, but then I think it's, in my opinion, obvious that specific rules then go deeper on certain things. So you're not going
I'm
to
not
take
sure.
a
I'm not sure it's
marketing.
obvious because I've seen many an organization, if you're lucky enough that they have this
Yeah,
alignment,
sure.
and if you're lucky enough that they have an onboarding process at all,
Yeah.
very often the onboarding is, here's your computer, here's your email, here's your phone,
Right.
off you go. Oh, and here's some of your colleagues, and this is where you get your coffee, and that's pretty much it.
Right.
And so having that clear structure and clear understanding that the rest of the organization is involved, even if it's just an hour in the, as part of a day with one of those departments, with someone responsible in the different departments, I think that should be aligned across the entire organization,
Mhm.
whether it's a small organization or a large organization. I think
Right.
the understanding what everyone does and where you fit in that is very
Mhm.
important.
Yeah. So to that point, I'm aligned. I think maybe I'm also familiar with a much more rigorous onboarding process. So then,
Mm.
when you're in finance, I don't need a finance person who's responsible for managing AR and AP to go down the same level of detail of pipeline velocity management as I do when I'm onboarding a salesperson.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and each organization will be different when it comes to those specialist roles and those specialist requirements and understandings. And that's kind of what I mean is that I'm suggesting that in order to create this alignment across organizations is that you have a standardized onboarding
hmm So I
beginning.
think
Like the
when
first
we're
week is kind of that thing, is like get to know the organization. Then
yeah
next level for the next months is that specialist training.
yeah is there, so I think this whole topic about fostering collaboration and getting this
Mm.
alignment internally and getting a new hire onboarded and familiar with these other roles and departments and whatnot, it is all an onboarding activity. Is there any part of this collaboration that shows up in the recruiting process?
Of this part,
Yeah.
I don't see that it would add any value.
Right.
I think letting them know that there is an onboard, that we have a robust
Yep.
onboarding process and it goes on for 3 months, 6 months,
Right.
whatever it may be, that's fine. But going into the specifics of what that entails is not necessary unless they show the curiosity for that, because at that particular time, it doesn't make that much difference.
What about having candidates in the later stages of the recruiting process have informal conversations with key people in marketing and finance?
Interesting. What would be the goal with that? The only so
Well,
the reason I'm challenging it slightly
yeah,
is because I know it's hard enough to get an onboarding process in place anyway.
yeah,
Secondly, it's extremely hard to get that cross collaboration and to get people to give up their time to actually show any focus or
hmm
interest in helping out the sales department or the finance department or the marketing department, depending on which one it is you're talking to. And then to add it in with somebody as part of the recruiting process would be quite a time eater of some of these departments and may be more challenging than we realize. But I'm not against any of this stuff because ultimately the effectiveness of the organization has to be the priority.
right. And I don't disagree with those challenges that you just described, but to again sort of um, flip the coin over, I think those are the usual excuses, and you need to push through that. And I think if you can find opportunities just for casual exploration, you're going to learn a couple of things. One, you're going to have greater onboarding and um, internal success with the candidate because
Mm-hmm.
the people that person got to talk to feel like they've been included in the process, and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
have to be collaborators in that person's success. Two, you just never know what little insight or feedback you're going to get when you stick the candidate in front of that particular person in a scenario that they're likely to be in an actual sales opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
I used to work for a very large software company, and part of the recruiting process at the end of the day was they just got paired up with somebody else to go have dinner. And there was no interview expectation whatsoever. But if you had any hesitations, let us know. And I think it was a good opportunity for the candidate to just get a little bit more, get their guard down, ask some interesting things. And boy, I did take a couple of people out for dinner, and you learn a few quick quirks that you're like, whoa, this wouldn't have come out in the interview. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, that's very good. I really like that.
Take us out, Andy.
Ultimately, I think we are aligned on that. If you want a new sales hire to perform, you need to, you need more than just product knowledge, and you need a unified commercial culture. And onboarding is where that begins, and involving the other departments is crucial in doing that. And onboarding doesn't belong to HR. It belongs to the department heads, and it's more than just the sales team. So if you want to find out more about our perspectives on recruitment and onboarding, go to teaandtimbits.com, and you can listen to old episodes and find out lots of other things that we have opinions about that we sometimes agree and disagree on. It doesn't matter, but we may disagree with you. So listen to them and give us some feedback, and we will gladly take it and ignore it if we disagree. Thank you, Scott. That's all.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks, everybody.